So first things first, got to ask, that's Cam, correct?
Yes.
Right there. How cool is it I don't know if this is necessarily a common occurrence for him to bring him out here, but how cool is it to kind of bring him around the team, have the team kind of embrace him, help him out with drills,
it's just
that sort of
awesome.
thing?
Coach Dillingham's such a big family guy that, he's not the only one. A bunch of our kids come out here. And, there's a lot of things you guys don't see on the weekends or pregame or postgame where our kids get to be involved. Obviously this profession can be really hard on your family, so any minute, any second that you get to spend with your wife or your kids in this case is really, really special. So I just appreciate Coach Dilly allowing the kids to be around and having that much access.
And having just the amount of attention that not only Martell, but much of this room, 3 of the 5 best players on this team by PFF grade, are in your room. How confident is it that your group is probably coming off its best game of the season?
I didn't even know that, to be honest. That's good. The most important thing is the win, and really just love the adversity that our team fought through on all 3 phases and came out with the win. And anytime you can beat a good football team like that in some really critical situations, really proud of our defensive guys because we'd really challenged them to be better in 2-minute situations. And I think, if I remember correct, I think we're 4 for 4 in that game in 2-minute situations. So just really proud as Coach Dilly really hammers home our guys trying to get a little bit better at something every week. That's showing up.
Coach Dillingham really has kind of praised Martell Hughes as an intelligent and a physical guy. How have you seen him grow and how have you helped develop that?
So much credit to him, and I think the guys around him just encouraging him, giving him confidence. Sometimes I'll play the bad cop and be hard on him, and they pick him up, and vice versa. And just seeing that young man's confidence grow, I think a lot of it goes to Coach Joe in the offseason, helping him get bigger and stronger. Anytime players feel bigger, stronger, faster, they feel better about themselves. So I think I have a small piece to that, I'd credit the guys around him, Coach Joe, Coach Ward, for really putting him in good situations. And he's a young man that cares, so it's really cool to see his success as he just keeps getting better and better. And I wish you guys could see the sideline and see his teammates and how fired up Keyshawn was, and Crook and Cyrus and those guys. They love him like a brother, so it's really cool to see those guys be more excited for his success than their own.
Keyshawn said he had an interaction with him where he was like, I'm going to be a junior next year, we're going to be young, and then Keyshawn said, no, you're just getting old now, so what's it going to be like to kind of have him as the veteran presence next year?
You know what? He just like all the challenges we put ahead of him, he's going to handle it. I think he's going to embrace it. I remember talking to his mom and his dad, a couple months ago, and just telling them how much more vocal he's already starting to get. And what better time for him? 2 of the better leaders that I've ever been able to be around, and Keyshawn and Crook, that Martell and the rest of the guys are getting to learn from and take little pieces and then become their own leaders. And so while that's a long ways away, I'm just excited to see him continue to develop in that and take it on. And ultimately, you want him to be the best version of him. You don't want him to try to be Key or Crook or Xavion or any of our really good older guys right now. You just want him to be the best version of who he is.
What does it say about the number of senior leaders that you have in the linebacker room that can kind of create this mold that you're describing? He wants to be Martell, he wants to be himself. What does it say about the other leaders in the room that he can be himself and grow into?
I go back 2 years ago. It's a big credit to Coach Dilly, and when we were hitting that portal real hard in that cycle, it was about the character, not necessarily the ability of guys. And obviously we got some good players all around, but we're really focused on guys that wanted to be at ASU, buy into Coach Dillingham's vision, buy into Coach Ward's vision, and we really, you look at the hit rate of that group of guys, it's really high. And I'm not just talking about their statistics, but who they are, the stuff we see as coaches is the ability to count on those guys, and I think that's really helped lay the foundation for a guy like Martell who's young and coming and see it to, okay, this is what the standard, this is what it's supposed to look like, not just on a Saturday night, but from a daily process, if that makes sense. So, yeah, it's big credit to a lot of those guys. Even a guy like, Trey Brown or Caleb McCullough that helped lay a lot of the foundational pieces for Key and Crook to take over, if that makes sense, or Tate or whoever it is, Iris. So just a lot of credit to go to a lot of different people on that.
And as you're in a bye week, what can your group really take away, especially the younger guys that are now getting more opportunities to maybe put themselves in position?
I think it's an opportunity to see where you're at, right? In the development that you're making. And, we've been spending a little bit of extra time with the young guys, whether it's in meetings or after practice, trying to prepare them for these moments. And it's really good. It's a small snapshot, but it is a snapshot. Say, okay, this is where you were at the end of August in fall camp, and this is where you guys are at now. These are the things you're doing well. These are the things you got to get better at. I really gave a lot of credit to Prayer when we just broke it down, because last year at this time, Prayer is not what he was. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if he could do it. And he's developed so much that now he's starting to contribute on special teams. And you start to see a path for that guy to continue to be successful here. And so you're really trying to get your young players to see that. It's like, hey, it's about daily development. It's about getting 1% better. I know that's all coach speak, but it's real, especially at the linebacker spot, because it's so the mental is just as much as the physical, if that makes sense.
But you just made the analogy about how Keyshawn's one of the best leaders you've seen. Considering him and Martell having kind of this so tight relationship, him mentioning it after TCU last week, how, I guess, encouraging is that for you as someone who's now going to see almost a completely different room next year, almost led by Martell? And how confident are you that Keyshawn is the right guy and the right person to kind of be the one who kind of like leads, mentor him?
It just, when you're around guys every day, you can see their intentions, you can see their habits, you know what I mean? Like, Keyshawn's a guy that, heck, he beats half the staff in here sometimes in the morning, you know, preparing, and like there's a reason why whatever Keyshawn does in life, he's going to be really successful, because he's going to outwork people. He's not going to let failure bother him. He's going to accept it, and he's going to take coaching, you know what I mean? And he's literally going to outwork people. So, you know, guys like that don't, like, I didn't do a lot for Keyshawn. Keyshawn's done way more for us than we've probably done for him. You know what I mean? The people that raised him and the first staff that coached him really probably helps out more of his foundation and everything. As far as the future, I'm going to be honest, I just think about practice tomorrow in Utah and whatever, 10 days. You know what I mean? Like, we'll kind of focus on what the group is. The one thing I encourage all those guys to do is soak up everything Jordan, Keyshawn are giving those guys right now, and be a sponge and hang on every little word or how they're working or what they're doing. Because what I do know is once those guys leave, they leave. You know what I mean? And their ability to impact those guys lessens when they're not around. So I'm really just trying to get those guys to be sponges and watch what those guys do and how they manage the process.
How have this year's freshman crop of linebackers embraced what you're talking about there?
They're young, you know what I mean? They're young linebackers. Everybody's a little bit different, you know what I mean? I think Isaiah's probably ahead of the group right now, but you can also tell Isaiah was here in January, you know what I mean? So some of the things that he's starting to understand and flash at, those other guys, you know, he's 6 months ahead, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of, I think, potential. Potential is a word that also gets coaches fired too. So I don't get too stuck on potential. It's more about what we're really focused on those guys is their daily habits and what are they doing. And again, you've got 2 great guys and 2 seniors and then 2 really good guys right behind them in Zaire Tate to watch their habits and mimic those guys and what they do daily to prepare themselves.
Even though you pretty much shut down TCU's run game, Brian Ward mentioned yesterday that a couple of those red zone runs that they had. What did you think about just the fits and how you guys are operating in those situations?
Yeah, there's always things you want to clean up, you know what I mean? And they, you know, credit TCU, they had a couple of real good schemes that, you know, I think you'd love to have back as far as like getting the guys ready or doing something a little bit different. And, you know, credit to our guys, they really do a good job in the moment of seeing a picture and adjusting and being able to correlate it back to whether it's something else somebody did or whether it's something new and how their base rules apply. And I thought after that, we really honed in and just, if we had gotten that again, I think they were going to be ready for it. So it's credit to TCU. You know, I think it's a fine line because there's an old saying, you prepare for everything, you prepare for nothing. You want to give your guys base fundamentals and rules and let those guys play really fast and aggressive, and you got to be careful. And trust me, as a coach, I've been guilty of it. You're trying to show them every picture. Well, yeah, they might see every picture, but they're going to play a little bit slower. When you play slow, you're going to give up way more big plays.
That interception that Martell had, it was the same play call TCU used to convert on a 3rd and long earlier in the game. What was kind of the approach to that? Do you know what he was kind of looking at there?
Yeah, you know what, for him, it was just like, hey, like it was formation recognition, you know what I mean, because it was a little bit different formation. And for him, I just told him, because he had dropped a pick, I think the series or 2 series before that, I was like, dude, they're coming back to this. Like, we trust you're going to make the play. You know what I mean? And it wasn't just me. Key was telling all the guys were like, dude, you got this. Like, even if you know what's really cool, if you go back and watch the pick he dropped, watch Tate Romney. Tate runs over to him. Martell's got his head down. He's got bad body language. Tate runs over to him, daps him up, picks his heads up, you know, and pounds him on the chest, trying to get his body. I get chills thinking about it because, like, that's a sign of a great teammate. So people were uplifting him and getting Martell ready to make that play. You know what I mean? And you know, TCU had some tendencies on some things that we were kind of dialed into, and he just did a great job of seeing the formation and anticipated what was going to happen.
He had that super physical play against Baylor where he blew up the block and made the tackle. Kenny actually talked about his physicality, his strength, safety.
Yep.
So
Yeah, again, it goes back to confidence. And I'd give a lot of that credit to Coach Joe, too. Like, Marty came and was never scared to hit people, but hitting people at 195 is a little different than hitting people at 215. You know what I mean? And now he's got a little more weight behind him doing it, and it's just like anything with a young player. When he has success at it, you know, there's a couple times he popped people in fall camp, spring ball, and you started to see it. and you could see his confidence start to grow. And then, he popped somebody early. I think it was either week 1 or week 2. I think at Mississippi State he hit somebody, and you could just see it start to elevate and grow and grow and grow. And then he had the fit against TCU on the bob where he hammered that. And so it's a case of a young guy that's getting more confidence and trusting the pitchers you've seen. And for us, linebacker play, when they can get their feet in the ground, trust what they see, and get going, like they can. There's a reason why Key and Crook play really aggressive, and Martell's starting to do some of those same things.
Speaking to Coach Carrington last week, he talked about just how he loved how tight his room was after the year and a half that they've been through and all the different close game situations. For you, kind of seeing how tight your room has become and how many of them have kind of evolved, and knowing this is kind of like the last ride for many of them, how just cool has it been as just the guy in charge that entire time for the most part, and seeing kind of just their development from guys who are kind of stepping up every now and then to being like, they're expected to because they're the leaders. They're the men.
Well, it's why you coach. For me, it's not necessarily the wins or losses. I know that's what our jobs are judged on, but it's seeing young men develop and grow. And when you sit, I remember sitting in Jordan Crook's apartment and looking in his eyes and saying, hey, we're going to coach the hell out of you. We're going to develop you. I'm not going to promise you anything, but the opportunity to compete, and we're going to develop you in the best version. And the one thing I've said I've always prided myself on is not just on the field, but whether it's academically and challenging those guys, whether it's as people off the field and their faith, as men in the community, whatever it is, and challenging those guys in that area too. And listen, none of this happens if you get guys that don't believe in you or Coach Dillingham or Coach Ward or what you're doing. So again, we're just really blessed. We have a group of guys that believe in Coach Dillingham and his message and his vision, and it kind of trickles down from there. So I don't want to say it's easy, but like when you get a group of guys that are all into that stuff, it's really, really fun. And the thing I know at 41 that I didn't understand at like 26, 27 when I was at North Dakota State was how to enjoy those guys. When I was young, I was just so much fire and passion, and like I remember I was young, and Coach Bowl pulled me aside, and I had a really good player that ended up playing the NFL for 6-7 years, and I didn't enjoy the way that guy worked in his process and his leadership. Like I didn't appreciate and enjoy that much. I was just, everything was 100 miles an hour, you know what I mean? And so as a coach now, like I feel like I enjoy those guys more, because like I said earlier about Keyshawn, those guys give you way more and teach you way more as a coach than you ever teach them. I've learned way more from Crook and Key on how to coach linebackers, whether it's the mental state, the physical state, things they see. I've learned way more from those guys than maybe I've taught them, you know what I mean? And so I just try to enjoy the heck out of those guys.
Are the Werewolves better or the Rushmen, nickname-wise?
You know what? I'm biased, you know what I mean? But like, hey, Rushman gets 6 acts like that. I'm all about the Rushmen. They do that. They make everybody's lives easier. So, hey, man, shout out to the Rushmen. They really got after it. I give a lot of, like Martell's pick, I think was a lot of credit because that guy was feeling pressure. And when Prince and Clayton and CJ and Jacob and Watley and all those guys, Elijah, anybody I'm missing, all those guys get after it like that, man, it makes Coach Ward's life easier and how he could call it. Makes the back ends easier. The quarterback's not holding the ball as long or he's making bad decisions. So, man, you know what, to answer your question, shout out to the Rushmen. Yeah, they do that, man, we all become a lot better coaches.
And speaking of North Dakota State, you were showing your moves a little bit out there. You're still in a business.
Yeah, I've lost a little weight, but I don't know. Don't tell the backers that because I'd still tell them they can't cover me. But nah, I think Father Time's caught up with me a little bit.
Tight end?
Yeah, long time ago. A long time ago.